repeating some of the claims that have been made in the popular media and on the internet concerning a device known in German as Die Glocke, or in English, the bell, the existence of which is a hotly contested topic. As an historian, I've decided to seek out the truth behind the headlines and discover whether Die Glocke was a real machine, or whether the story is, as some suggest, bovine excrement. Die Glocke exists against a background of real history that is fairly astounding and historically indisputed. German scientists and engineers created a plethora of highly advanced machines that to a World War II audience would have seemed to be almost from the pages of science fiction. They built jet fighters like the Messerschmitt Me-262. The rocket interceptor, the Bachem Natter. The V-1 robot bomb. The V-2, the world's first practical ballistic missile, and plenty more besides. And all these weapons were built by a sinister, secretive regime that used slave labor and inhabited a world of vast underground bases worthy of a James Bond novel. In short, Nazi Germany was fertile ground for exaggerating historical truth. Die Glocke entered the public consciousness in 2000 in a book that spawned several more examining this phenomenon. All were in agreement that the man who created Die Glocke, or at least was administratively in charge, was SS Obergruppenführer Dr. Hans Kammler, the sinister head of the V for Vengeance weapons program. Fortunately for all concerned, Hans Kammler was straight out of Central Casting, an almost comic book Nazi villain who managed to disappear into thin air at war's end in May 1945, never to be seen again. I made a video about this disappearing act, link in the end screen. According to many internet sources, which all seem to reference the book I mentioned from 2000 and another from 2001, the SS designed and built the strange anti-gravitation craft, whose shape gave it the name the Bell, powered by a mysterious fuel called Serum 525, otherwise known as red mercury. Die Glocke was very dangerous and unstable, but I won't describe how it was operated, as all explanations are entirely theoretical. Suffice it to say, the bell was described as being between 12 and 14 feet tall and 9 feet wide, and made of 3-inch thick ceramic material. And just in case anyone was unaware of its origin, a large swastika was conveniently placed on the side for identification purposes. So who actually built this device? Here we run into roadblocks, or more precisely, a complete lack of documentary evidence. This is unusual, as the Germans carefully recorded everything else that they did in World War II. Yet when it comes to Die Glocke, the paper trail is stone cold. In fact, it appears that the modern evidence for the existence of Die Glocke seems to rest on one author's alleged conversations with a Polish intelligence officer who had access to a secret dossier of material from the interrogation of SS involved with the project. Various names have been suggested, largely due to their proximity to real Nazi secret programs, one of the foremost being Dr. Werner Heisenberg. Heisenberg was one of the foremost German physicists to work for the Nazis and was a leader in the German atomic bomb program, which slowly and rather unsuccessfully attempted to construct a nuclear reactor, partially successful, and build an atomic weapon, unsuccessful, before the war ended. We know where Heisenberg was and what he was working on throughout the war. He was also handily captured by the Americans in 1945 and thoroughly interrogated by them, but failed to mention Die Glocke. Well, there were plenty of Nazi scientists who could have been involved with the bell. Yes, and the US captured and shipped nearly all of Nazi Germany's best scientific minds to the States in a top-secret operation codenamed Paperclip just after the war. Could the US have also captured Die Glocke and shipped that to the States as well? In fact, Die Glocke was not first mentioned in 2000, but rather in 1960 in France in a book titled The Morning of the Magicians. Translated into English in 1963, it covered a series of Nazi topics that all had some dash of real history at their core. For example, Nazi UFOs, Nazi occultism, and Die Glocke. Regarding UFOs or flying saucer craft, the Horten brothers had built flying wings for the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, and the brothers and their designs ended up in the US in 1946. You can see how the Horten design would influence later US aircraft like the B-2 stealth bomber. Some have suggested that Nazi flying wings and US-derived test vehicles contributed to the UFO craze of the 1950s. And regarding Nazi occultism, again, there is a dash of truth behind the story. Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, was a notorious crank and used the German castle, Wewelsburg, as a sort of holy SS temple where some strange pseudo-religious ceremonies and researches were conducted. This is fact, but it is open to sensational reinterpretations by certain authors and TV companies. The subjects in the book, The Morning of the Magicians, fed into the 1960s counterculture and the later 1970s and 80s New Age movement. Die Glocke was presented as fact, but a fact bereft of any supporting evidence. Such ideas as Die Glocke were also very popular in the pulp fiction of the 1960s and 70s, where the Nazis were portrayed as having developed some truly astounding secret technologies,